My grandfather came here first because they were and he was from Austria. My other grandparents were from Yugoslavia, but I think it was kind of the same. And he came here, worked in the mine, saved money, then sent for my grandmother. And when she came here, then they got married.
And she was from where?
Same place, yeah. Like you'll see it. Okay. Yeah.
So they settled here.
Yes.
In Sudan.
Yes.
And then your parents, where did they live?
My parents are both from the Sudan area too. They kind of lived across the alley from one another. Yeah.
And so that's how they met.
Yeah. My mother was a Brula. She had 9 sisters and 2 brothers. And they all lived here, but most of them, a lot of them left the area. In fact, that's how I got to go to Chicago, because one of my aunts lived there. And when I graduated from high school, graduated in June, and August I went to Chicago with her.
So how did your grandparents and your parents make a living?
Both of them, as far as I know, they were miners. Yeah.
Did any of your grandmothers work?
No. They worked at home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Are there any other stories that have come down to you about your parents or grandparents that would be an interesting kind of little anecdote or a story?
Nothing that's unusual. Yeah. Well, I think I told you that my dad was in the First World War. Yeah. He went. He was 17 years old, and he according to Dad, who was a big liar, him and Pershing won the war.
Oh.
And then after he came back from the war, like I said, he was 17. Then he also went to work in the Sudan mine.
Now you mentioned that your father was in the military.
Yes.
Did you have any other family?
My brother was my brother was in the Air Force, and I think I told you 2 uncles were in the Navy. You know, my brother, my mother's brother, Joe Brula and John Brula. Yeah, and one was I think I told you one was a pilot and flew airplanes from. According to what I heard, from the States to Hawaii, he would transport stuff. And the other one was commander on a ship, and he was stationed in Hawaii.
So those were your nephews? I mean, your
uncles.
Uncles.
Yeah.
Okay, and this was World War II?
2.
Describe what Tower-Soudan was like as you were growing up.
You know what? I think we grew up at a good time.
Explain.
Because people got along good. You know, the kids in the neighborhoods always played together. I'm sure they had a few fights, but and then this part of town would fight the other part of town, the boys, you know. But we used to have a lot of fun. Like we'd play baseball, we'd play hide and seek, run sheep run. We played, you know, those kind of games. We had a lot of fun.
Do you think it has changed?
Oh, it has a lot.
In what way?
I don't think kids play together as much as they used to. I think our kids did. Yeah, don't you think so, Barb? Yeah, you know, I think our kids did, but the next generation, not as much. I don't. Mm-mm.
What did most people do for a living in this area when you were young?
They all worked in the mines. Yeah.
And what do they do now? How is it different now?
I think they still work in the mines. Yeah.
Of course, the Sudan mine is closed.
Yeah, but they work for like at Erie or Mintak or whatever the one in Babbitt is.
How have state, national, and or international events affected your family and community? For instance, how about World War II? How did that affect this community?
Oh, I was just when I was thinking about what I was going to tell you, I was thinking about during the Second World War when we used to have air raids. You know, we used to have air raids where you have to shut all the lights off in the town, and each guy or on their street, they would walk up and down the streets to make sure that all the lights were off. This was during the Second World War. And I was, that just popped into my head when I was thinking about stuff like that. And then, of course, we used to buy bonds and, stuff like that we did, yeah.
War bonds? Mm-hmm. What about the forming of unions? Was that a big thing?
I can't remember anything about that, no, no.
About the civil rights movement?
Not too much about that around here either.
Too much, okay. Were there any other big events that happened in either the state or the community that made a big impression on
I
the
think
people?
that what made a big impression was when the Second World War was over. The sirens were blowing, people were happy, it was a good time. No more war.
Let's get back to your job. What was the most difficult part of your job?
In the Illinois Bell, going there. Well, I came from a little old town in Sudan, and I would have to take a bus that would transfer. And when I first went down to Chicago, I lived on the south side, and it was quite a distance from the downtown area. And I used to take the L. If you ever been into Chicago, the L that would be this close to the house. And it was kind of scary because you went into neighborhoods that were not too good, and you'd have to get off your bus to get into the L. And then in the nighttime, and like in the winter when it was dark, never took the L home because it was too dark to go into those areas and take the bus, get off the L and take the bus. Yeah.
How did you meet your husband?
I met my husband in a bar. It was in a Sunday afternoon, and it was called Club Irene's, and they used to have good old polka music there. And my sister and a friend of ours went there, and he was there with 3 of his buddies, and I think they were kind of inebriated. And I gave him our telephone number, and then he called up. And
where was this?
In Chicago. Club Irene in Chicago, yeah. And he worked for a jeweler.
Where was he from?
Chisholm. Never met.
Wow.
I told him him and I would have never made it when we were in high school because I was kind of a redneck and he was the opposite.
What are some of your childhood memories? And you mentioned it a little bit about playing the different games. Were there any other games other than the ones that you first mentioned that you played outside?
Well, we just played marbles, And of course, us girls used to play house. One of my friends had a playhouse, and we'd go there and have our dolls and, tables, chairs, little dishes. In fact, I still do have a set of dishes I got. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Did the boys and girls play together?
No.
Not very often, huh? What toys were in fashion for boys and girls?
Well, boys had trucks, girls had dolls, and in fact, I was just talking, I can't even remember who that, because we never got a lot of Christmas presents. We maybe got one present. And Santa Claus used to come in the night, Never saw Santa Claus. But that one Christmas, between my sister and I, we got a table and chair set, and my mother set the table up with dishes. So the table was set with dishes, and we each got a doll, and the dolls were sitting on the table. I can't remember what my brother got, but that's what my sister and I got.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah.
Did you, when you did play outside, where did you play? Other than the playhouse, where else did you play in the area?
Well, we used to go out to the woods a lot. We used to go and just look for berries and flowers, different kind of, Mayflower, I remember. And we used to swing on the trees. Yeah.
And climb them.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have chores at home?
Yes, we had to do the dishes, And then on the week, on Saturdays, we each had one room we had to clean, vacuum, dust, yep. And we had to do supper dishes every night.
How about your brothers?
My brother, I can't remember him doing anything. It was a boy. You know Slovenians.
Indeed, I do.
Yeah.
Did you have a job while you were in high school? Did you say you
No,
worked at the resort?
I worked at the resort, yes, I did. And then I also took care of Mr. Grant, who was worked for the Coltses, and I took care of his kids. And she was a golfer, so, I even went to Hibbing Golf Course with them. But they were very, very nice people. I went like 3 times a week. Yep.
Nice. What special places in the town or the area stand out most in your mind besides the woods?
Well, we had the sedan store. We used to go there and buy penny candy. And for 5 cents, you got a whole big bag of penny candy. And now you get a piece. Let's see. And then, of course, we always went down McKinley Park in the summertime, and we'd spend all day long there swimming. And, and the place was full of kids all the time. Mm-hmm. And then wintertime, Yaples Hill, which is, where Yaples Hill is up there. We used to go sliding down there, and we had toboggans, and we'd go tobogganing, and then, of course, skating. Yeah.
What are some of your fondest memories of school life?
Well, I think when we were in high school, I was a cheerleader. So that was very, very interesting. And my brother played both football and basketball. And that was, took most of our winters up. And when we played Ely in Tower in basketball, there would be lines from where the school is still, all the way past where the mortuary, it used to be Gornick's. People waiting to get into the games.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, yeah.
What classes did you like best?
Probably recess.
Who were some of your favorite teachers?
I liked Miss Bosworth.
And what did she teach?
She taught English. I think everybody liked her. She was, well, I don't know how old she was, but she looked old for us, But she was such a good teacher. She made you feel like everything that you learned from her was so great. She was really good. I had her for 2 years, yeah.
Were there any other school staff members that you remember?
Mr. Kerala. He was such a, how can I put this, executive type looking.
And what was he at?
He was a principal. And you'd see him and you'd be quiet. Not like, they dressed it. Suits, ties, he always looked so good. I really respected him. I did. Even to this day when I look back, I think he was really, really nice, yeah.
What were the fashions like when you were growing up for both the boys and the girls?
Okay. Well, we could not wear slacks to school. We had to dress up. They were mostly like sweaters and straight skirts. And I think we had anklets. We never wore nylons. And it was always cold, so we had to really dress warm. Yeah.
How about the boys?
Boys were mostly jeans, yeah. If I remember, my brother would wear jeans, yeah.
What activities or games did your family engage in when you were at home?
Probably played, we used to have a lot of Chinese checkers, just plain checkers, We cards, stuff like that, yeah.
Did your parents engage in those activities too?
Yes.
Did your family ever travel?
No. If we went to Virginia, it was a big deal. We waited for weeks to go to Virginia. We never went. Although we did go My brother, my sister, and I went with my mother and my grandma with the bus to this Minneapolis once because somebody was getting married, so we went.
What, do you think the small amount of travel was due to people were just too busy, or they didn't have the money? Or?
Nobody traveled. Very, very few people traveled far to Tower if you're lucky.
Describe some of the local gatherings and events that happened in the area as you were growing up. And this may include things like local organizations, church, school events, etc.
Well, we used to, there was a building, I don't know where, let's see, Fourth Avenue. It was called the Catholic Men's Club. And we used to, even when we used to have parties, like in the summertime, they have parties in there for Catholic organizations. And then we used to have Mass in there because, you couldn't, when I was growing up, there was not a lot of cars here. A lot of people did not have cars. My dad was one that, we had a 1937 Chevy. And then he got, I think it was a 48 Chevrolet. But there were not too many people in town that had cars. And for the people, and our church was always in Tower. So they used to have a bus to come around and pick up the people to take them, on Sundays to church. Yeah. So that's one thing that I always thought was kind of different.
So church was an important part of most families?
Yes, I think so. Any religion, I think it was, yeah.
How about 4th of July?
Oh, 4th of July. You could hardly wait for 4th of July. We'd go downtown and they had the big parade, and then they would have all those games at probably the still place, in the schoolyard where the football field, well, it's not a football field anymore, I don't think, but, and then in the evenings, we'd go to the schoolyard again, and they would shoot the fireworks off there at the schoolyard. So, it was always always could hardly wait for the 4th of July. Yeah, it was fun.
And I think I heard, and I might even remember as a little girl, that there were powwows.
Oh yeah, they had the Indian powwows, yep, every 4th of July.
Were there any all-class reunions or class reunions that would be?
Let's see, when did, how old? Probably 10 years. For our first one was at Isle of Pine. They had that little building across that bridge. That was our first class reunion. And you dressed up, with dresses, long dresses. Now you go, I don't know, shorts.
Through the eyes of a child, how would you describe the adults in your community?
I think they were stern. I think they were all, you better behave type of thing, yeah.
So how did they interact with young people?
Some of them were really good, and some of them were, don't come in my yard. Yeah. But the majority of them were very, very nice, I think.
Did most people have gardens?
Everybody had a garden. Barb knows, I lived where Mike lives now. And our house was kind of more in the middle of the lot, and then we had a garden in the back of the lot and a garden in the front, and we had what we used to call farm out further out. Yeah, so most of the stuff that we grew, then we canned. Didn't freeze in those days because you have nowhere to put it, but we did a lot of canning. Mm-hmm. Yep.
How did the people in this area, how did they accept immigrants, new people coming into the area?
Geez, I don't really think that many new people came in when I was growing up, because they were all immigrants to start with. Yep.
Who were some of the highly respected people in the area when you were growing up?
I think the priests and ministers were. I think that people that kind of ran the mines. I think the teachers, yeah.
Where did the young kids and teenagers hang out?
Let's see, where did I hang out as a teenager? Oh, Marjo. We used to go there for coffee, or a lot of them just kind of rode around. You know, the more so the boys, because the girls didn't drive as much as the boys did. And I think they had a lot of beer parties too in those days also.
Where did the adults gather for coffee?
I don't really think they did that much.
Did the women go from house to house visiting?
Yeah, I know. And my mom did. I remember she went over to the neighbor's house, and the neighbor would come over ours. But it was they never really did too much. Not like today. Different.
What were some of the main jobs women housewives had when you were growing up?
Other than being a housewife?
Well, what were some of the things they did as a housewife?
Oh man, I think they worked hard. I mean, they didn't have the conveniences like they do today. I mean, just ironing. Everything was ironed. You know, and now you just go like this. And they did a lot of canning. And they did a lot of baking. You know, they really baked a lot. Bread all the way. And they cooked like we used to come home from school for lunch every day. And my dad used to take a lunch pail, but we came home from school, and depending on what shift my dad was on, that's when we had our big meal. If he was on day shift, then it was in the night. If he was on 3 to 11, it was at noon. Yeah.
Did your dad ever talk about his life in the mines?
Not too often.
And if he did, what would he have said?
Yeah, you know, I really and truly can't remember him. I really think it was dangerous work, you know, when they were first there, but I can't, he never said too much that I can remember.
What are some of the jobs that some of the women held outside of the home? Do you remember any of the women and some of the jobs?
I don't know too many women that worked out. When I was a kid, I don't remember too many women that worked outside of their house.
Were there any shopkeeper women's?
Well, there was a Tower dress shop, but I think she was a widow. And I really and truly, I don't think too many women worked out of their house. I don't.
What businesses were in Tower-Soudan?
There was a lot.
Can you describe some of them?
Okay. When years ago there was Zoop's store, Zobitz's store, Stefanich's store, and Olson's. There was like 3 barber shops, and there was a mortuary. Of course, there was a Tower liquor store, Scala's, and then that one. I can't remember what the name of it was. One across the street where I can't remember what the name of it was. And then the brewery was always kind of open too. So, and my dad used to say they used to have really good dances down there. So my mother and dad said that, yeah.
How about the garages?
Let's see, there was Shabody's, which was where the first one you come into Tower from Sudan. Burgess's were the Tower Terry stores. There was at the end of Tower, the other side, Pila's, and I can't remember who owned the other one on the other side. But there's 6 or 4, 1, 2, 3, yeah, 4 that I remember.
How about restaurants?
I worked in one of those restaurants, Maida's. It's where Hentry's place is. Okay. It was the worst place in the world to work because she had this big menu and nothing in the kitchen. But it was a summer job, so. And if you got a nickel for a tip, it was a big deal.
How about, was there a movie theater?
Yes, we went to, it was kind of where the Tower post office is in that area. And they used to have, in fact, a lot of the kids that I went to school with kind of worked in there. Not that we ever got into free, but it was 9 cents. And then you got a penny for candy. But that, let's see, there's Terry Schoberg, Teddy Hall, Roger Anderson. I think they all worked there. And they all kind of had like a little band. And then when everything was all over, then they went and practiced. So it was kind of neat, yeah.
How about during the summers? You said you would go down to McKinley Park.
Yes.
What sorts of things were happening down there?
Well, they always had old settlers. You know, that's been going on forever and ever. Other than that, it was just family type things, yeah.
Now, did they have a pavilion down there
Yes.
that would have a band? Okay.
Well, that was probably before my time, if they did that. But that they did have a pavilion down there. I just hated to see when that thing went because it was really a nice place. Yeah, they should have never knocked it down or did whatever they did to it.
What were the general modes of transportation for kids and adults?
Other than cars, kids, bikes. You know, we used to ride around a lot in bikes. And then when they got older, it wasn't like today where once a kid gets their driver's license, they get a car. You just had a family car.
So a lot of people walked?
A lot of people walked, yes.
Was there a bus service or train service?
Well, we had the Greyhound bus that used to, go from Ely, I think, you could go to Duluth, you could go wherever you wanted from there on. But I don't think it was every day, maybe 2 or 3 times a week. When to Ely, then next day come back, go the other way. Yeah, and there was a train too, because when I first went to Chicago, I used to take the train to Duluth, and then they had a train that from Duluth to Tower, and then it went to Ely.
What do you think was the relationship between Tower citizens and Sudan citizens?
I don't know if it was that good. There was never any really, never heard anything, but the kids got along really good between the Tower and Sudan. I don't know about the adults.
How about the people that lived on the lake and the Tower-Soudan residents?
You know something, there wasn't that many people that lived on the lake in those days. The ones that lived on the lake were probably the ones that had their resorts or, stuff like that. Dickie Grubin was one that I remember. He was, about my age. But there weren't that many people that lived on the lake in those days. Not like today.
So what are you most proud of about the Tower-Soudan area and people?
I really and truly think the people in Tower-Soudan are very considerate towards one another. I think they're nice people. In my book, they are. Not too many people that I know that I don't really like. I like everybody.
Is there something about the physical area that you're proud of?
I think I am proud of how clean it is. Well, Sudan anyhow. Sudan it's nice and clean. People. Well, it's not as clean as it used to, but people really take care of their properties around here, I think. Yeah.
So what is retirement life like?
Perfect. When my husband was alive, our thing was to travel all the 50 states, and we did.
Oh my gosh.
And when the year he got sick, he always wanted to go to Australia, so that was our plan. And he got sick, so that ended. But we did see all the states. Yeah, yeah.
How is retired life for you different for? How was it different for your parents or your grandparents?
Oh, I think Roger and I had a better one than. I don't know if it was better, but we did more. They were kind of. They just stayed around, whereas we did our thing. Yeah.
What life lessons have you learned based on how you were raised and where you lived most of your life?
I think be happy with what you have. Don't begrudge anybody what they have. Just be happy with what you have and enjoy it.
What is it about a small town that you most like?
I think because people are friendly, and if you ever get into any kind of, they're helpful. If you ever get into any kind of problem, they're always there to help you. Well, you know something that has changed too now because you don't know anybody. I lived here, let's say, all but 20 years of my whole life, and I know very few people.
Why do you think that is?
Because I hate to say this, a lot of the people that I know either moved or are dead, and I don't know a lot of the newer ones that moved in. I don't. Like I said, I enjoy living here. Even, you know, after Roger died, it was good to be someplace like this instead of a big city.
Well, you know.
And we came this close to move back to Chicago too, because he was laid off for a long, long time, and I think we had 2 kids at the time, and he worked for. Like I said, he worked for a jeweler there, and we went to visit my sister, and he could have got his job back, and we came this close to move back.
What made you not?
I think he got hired back at Erie, yeah. Yeah. But it was very, very difficult because he was laid off for most of the times when we were first married, and you had kids, and you're making $33 a.
So what did he do when he wasn't working in the mines? Did he?
Well, you couldn't work anywhere because there was nowhere to work. It was not good times here. Mm-mm. Oh, I take that back. He went to work for his dad. His dad had worked for Curry. I don't know if you know, they were candy selling things, and his dad owned the business in Chisholm, so Roger worked for his dad. Yeah, yeah.